Well, we're back today to study Psalms. I've chosen a very familiar psalm that many people like to quote, and many people quote verses out of it, Psalm 90. I guess that Psalm 90 has one theme, and that is time. You ever thought about time? All of us live in the constraints of time. When did time originate? When is time going to end? We think about time more than we can imagine. And we want to think today with the psalmist about time. Because the psalmist thought a lot about time. The three things he says about time. First of all, in verses 1 and 2, he talks about the timelessness of God. I remember as a young boy that I was mystified by the timelessness of God. I would ask my parents, when did God begin? Will God ever die? See, I was accustomed to life being birth, death, time in between. They tried in a very simple way to explain that God is not bound to time. And I think that this is what the psalmist was thinking and pondering about. He was pondering the timelessness of God. Lord, verse 1, Thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or Thou dost give birth to the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, Thou art God. Do you realize that the God of Abraham, the God of Moses, the God of Jacob, the God of David, the God of Solomon, the God of Simon Peter, the God of the Apostle John, was our God. He has been in all generations. Just think about it. My great-grandfather talked to the same God I talked to. My grandfather talked to the same God I talked to. My father talked to the same God I talked to. And my children talk to the same God I talk to, because He's present in all generations. And then he says, before the mountains were born, or Thou didst give birth to the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, Thou art God. I remembered that I had an encounter one time with my oldest son. He was about 8 years of age. We were on our way as a family to Glorieta, which was a conference center of Southern Baptists. And we were driving. We would stop and have picnics along the way, and he was always asking me, what state are we in? I said, we're in the state of Louisiana. And then we'd get to Texas, and he'd ask me, what state are we in? I said, we're in Texas. And he asked, after a while, he said, will we ever get out of Texas? Then just beyond the Texas border, all of a sudden the terrain changed. No longer the flatlands of Texas, but the beautiful mountains of New Mexico began to appear. My oldest son became intrigued with that. And he asked me a question. How did the mountains get there? And so I thought I would tell him exactly how the mountains got there. I said, well, years ago there was probably an ice age, and then the ice melted and it caused the ravines and left big, large mounds, and they're called mountains. He was not satisfied with that answer. And so I tried it in another way. I tried scientifically to explain the origin of the universe. And finally, his mother, being tired of our conversation, of my explanation scientifically, she said, Bill, God made the mountains. Can't get any better explanation than that. God made the mountains. It says, before the mountains were born, or thou didst give birth to the earth and the world, you were there. I don't understand that. It says, from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Time is a thing that God has made for human beings. God exists in timelessness. There's never been a time when God has never been. He is and shall be. He is the great I am. One reason for us to worship God today is His absolute timelessness. Beginning in verse 3, we moved away from the timelessness of God to see the finiteness of human beings. Thou didst turn man back into dust, and thou dost say, return, O children of men. We came from dust, and we're going back to dust. Right? Temporary, not timeless. And then he said something interesting about our time on earth. He says, for 1,000 years in thy sight are like yesterday when it passes by. And then he says, but life is very fragile. Life is temporary. Life is passing. And he uses several analogies to talk about how life is fragile. He said life is like a flood. Flood comes, the waters rise, and then the waters go down. Then it says that life is like a dream. It's translated watch in my translation, but it could mean a dream. A dream comes, and then it's over. If it's a bad dream, we're glad it's over. If it's a pleasant dream, we wish it hadn't have been over. It comes as a watch in the night. Thou hast swept them away like a flood. They fall asleep. And in the morning, they're like grass which sprouts new. In the morning, it flourishes and sprouts anew. Grass comes, grass goes. Human life is like that. It comes and it goes. It sees the finiteness of life. Toward evening it fades and withers away. And so the psalmist is telling us that life for us is finite. It's temporary. It does not last. And then he talked to us about what are we going to do with the time we have. For we've been consumed by thine anger, and by thy wrath we have been dismayed. Verse 7. And thou hast placed our iniquities before thee, our secret sin in the light of thy presence. For all our days have declined in thy fury, and we have finished our years like a sigh, like a whisper. As for the days of our life, they contain 70 years. In other words, he gave the lifespan of a human being being 70 years. I think I'm on overtime. Or if due to strength, 80 years. You know, he's saying that even if we live 70 years, or even if we live 80 years, short in the light of eternity. Yet their pride is but labor and sorrow, for soon it is gone, and we fly away. I don't know if this is correct or not, but sometimes in church people will sing, "I'll fly away." Maybe this is where that comes from. I'll fly away. And then he says, who understands the power of thine anger and thy fury according to fear that is due to us. And then he mentions the word so. Transition word. A transition word that leads to a tremendous thing. Even though our life is finite, we need to be taught to number our days in whatever lifespan we have. Listen what he says. So teach us to number our days, that we may present to thee a heart of wisdom. Number our days. I want to talk with you just a moment about numbering our days. That means to live a day at a time. To wake up in the morning and to say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. To recognize this may be the only day we have. To enjoy. Enjoy our family. Enjoy our quiet time with God. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. Wisdom in the Bible doesn't mean the accumulation of facts. It means the ability to take facts and use them for the glory of God. Do return, O Lord. How long will it be? And be sorry for thy servants, and satisfy us in the morning with thy loving kindness. Began each morning with the recognition of good God, that we may sing for joy and be glad all of our days. Make us glad according to the days thou hast afflicted us, and the years that we've seen evil. The psalmist knew that evil will come in our life. Help us to endure that. But when joys come, help us to enjoy that. Enjoy life. When I taught at New Orleans Seminary, I was the interim pastor of a rather large church. They would have anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 every Sunday. I had a hard time getting to know all of the people. And one day I was on an airplane getting ready to go to teach for New Orleans Seminary in Atlanta, Georgia. The man came up to me and said, "Sir, you don't know me, but I listen to you every Sunday." I said, "Thank you for making that known." He pulled out an index card and he said, I want to show you something that I have in my pocket. said about several months ago you preached a sermon, How to Have a Good Day. And you used the Sermon on the Mount. And you took the principles of the Sermon on the Mount, and for the last 3 months, I have been having good days, reflecting on what Jesus Christ said about having a good day. I want to close the psalm and say, we can't understand the timelessness of God. We don't know the length of our life, but we need to number our days in the way that God wants it lived so that we may have